On today's episode of Chris and Jen in the Morning, we are here to talk about gratitude and how grateful we are for our friends.
And then we move into a discussion around guilty pleasures. Guilty pleasures. Guilty pleasures. Guilty pleasures.
I love the way he says that. So tune in and find out how guilty pleasures are really a part of self-care.
So buckle up, Buttercup. It's going to be a fun ride. Welcome to Chris and Jen in the Morning,
where it's always morning somewhere.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Jen.
Welcome to today's show, where we're discussing guilty pleasures.
Guilty pleasures.
I've been waiting all day to say that.
I love this. You sent me a list of potential topics for the day, and all 4 of them were super good. So thrilled about any and all of the ones to come. But I love talking about guilty pleasures because I have so many thoughts about this. Tell me, why did you pick this topic?
I thought it was interesting how it was kind of phrased around like, what are your guilty pleasures? And then as I started looking more into it, it was this idea of like, why do we call them guilty pleasures? And like, what kind of impact and effect does that have on us as humans? And I don't know, I just found it all super interesting as I went down the rabbit hole. So I was like, oh, this could be a fun topic discussion. And I'm sure like everyone has used that phrase before or like has been in a similar situation. So I was like, relatable. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I think it's so important to indulge in what we would consider guilty pleasures as a part of self-care and being kind to oneself. But I also think it's really important to dive in and understand why we think they're guilty pleasures and what that means and what we're telling ourselves, how we prioritize ourselves, and kind of like that advice of pay yourself first financial folks will give you. Pay yourself first in the currency of kindness and energy and all of that. So I love this topic. Super excited.
Love it. So let's start with our gratitude moment, and then we'll jump into guilty pleasures.
Guilty pleasures. I don't do it as well as you do.
Okay, I'll kick off our gratitude moment. I this week had the opportunity, like you and I have like this standing meeting every week, right? Where we get to come together and record, and I get to hang out with you in this type of forum. As I was thinking about my gratitude moments, I'm just like, I'm so thankful that I have friends who like reach out. I am not the friend who is like texting you every day and checking in on every detail of your life. Like I am not that friend, but I am the friend. Like if there's anything that's ever happening and you need someone to talk to or you need advice or anything like that, I will always make myself available. And that's what I appreciate about my friendships as well. And so this week had the opportunity to hang out with some of my incredible friends and just kind of, have my cup refilled and really have that opportunity to connect with them and catch up and laugh and have some yummy drinks. And it was a lot of fun. So it just made me grateful for the people I have in my life and the opportunities to continue to connect and for us to grow together.
I love that. And I'm not copying you.
Just to be clear.
We're just on a similar wavelength today, because as I was thinking about my gratitude moment, what I was thinking about is multiple times this week, and not just this week, but multiple times this week, I have thought I am incredibly grateful to have so many people in my life that truly care about me, that are here to support me and to have fun with me and to lean on me. And also in those times when life gets tough, to support me. And the number of people that I have that reach out and just like check in on me and see how I'm doing. And even if I don't have the emotional bandwidth to really kind of engage fully, to know that like I am cared about, it means a lot. It's like a huge boon of support and a boost. And so I just was thinking this week, I am incredibly grateful, even when I am overwhelmed in wanting to kind of turtle up and like thinking about how I need to invest in these relationships. But I also just want to kind of turtle up and be inside my shell. I'm so grateful that I have people that I can count on to care about me. So you all know who you are, and just know that I am incredibly grateful for you, and I would not be able to keep moving forward without you. So thank you.
Well, and a lot of times, like, people give what they get out of relationships, right? Friendships. And so, I mean, I know that you're thanking all of those people, but I see you as the same way. Like, when I am at a place where I'm not wanting to talk to people, if I see a text message from you, I'm like, oh, I'll talk to Jen. Like, safe space.
But I also know, like, even when I truly do want to talk to them, I just also don't want to engage with anyone at all because
Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed or I just need some solitude. Like, I'm in my emotional fortress of the cabin in the woods, knowing that I can trust that they still care about me. It's a really nice thing. And I would say almost feels like a guilty pleasure, because sometimes I feel like I don't deserve that, but I am incredibly grateful for it. So let's talk about guilty pleasures because
Let's do it.
I often find that I think of something as a guilty pleasure when I think I don't deserve it, even though maybe that's, not healthy or accurate thinking. And so I've been thinking a lot about what is a guilty pleasure. I know you've got a definition to offer. How would you define guilty pleasure?
Well, when this first came up as an idea for a topic, I kind of thought of it as like these things that like you kind of feel bad about like indulging in them and like either not having the strength to withstand or resist. And then after the fact, you look and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or I'm not going to tell people that I did that because I don't want to like deal with you know feeling guilty about that. So initially, as I was thinking about this, I was like, oh, what would some of my guilty pleasures be? And then the more that I started looking into like where this where the phrase guilty pleasures came from and kind of its existence and how it's transformed over the years, I now kind of see it in a different light. And now I'm like, oh, well, now I don't feel bad about like indulging in things. Like it is what it is. Like
Which I
it's my
think is
life. I'm going to do what I want to do.
such a healthy a place to get to, but I think a
Yeah.
lot of us struggle to get to that place.
Right.
I I've shared before, I've had a number of people tell me be kind to yourself, and they would say that to me, and I'm going, well, I'm a smart person, but I don't understand what that means. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? What would I do differently? And I do think when I think about guilty pleasures, I think that's a part of being kind to yourself. But when I was thinking this morning about what is a guilty pleasure, how would I define what a guilty pleasure is? I think that I would consider anything that you believe you are investing resources in, whether it's time or money. Those are the two main ones I can think of. Energy that you feel like some external force would tell you that those resources should be spent elsewhere. If I think about like getting a massage, I've often said I struggle with thinking that going and getting a massage is a guilty pleasure, but for someone who carries around a lot of tension, it is not only kindness to self, it is kindness to everyone around me.
Yeah.
And it's, health, like for my own longevity and being able to properly function day to day. And, doing that on a regular basis is something I should be doing. And yet I feel really guilty about it
Right.
because I feel like it's both time and money that I should be spending doing something else. And
Yeah.
what's funny is it's not like anyone has ever said that to me. So it's not like when I say an external force of some kind, it's like this perception that I have created and projected on what I think others would think. But when I stop and really
Right.
think about that, I know it's not logical. Yet it's like this belief that I hold. I also, I had shared, and I need to get back to doing this, but there were a number of years where I went on a walk almost every single day. I did a 5K in the morning, and it was a great way to start my day. just to get out there, get some steps in, get my
Yep.
head in a good space. And I literally was like, I cannot take the time in the morning to go for a walk because if I am awake and present enough, I should be logged into work. And so that felt like a guilty pleasure to me of,
Yep.
no, I'm not going to hop on this call at 8 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. I'm going to go for a walk. And then it was, well, I'll go for a walk and I'll take the call at the same time. And it just felt like such a guilty pleasure. Like I know I'm doing this for me, and that feels guilty because it's about me. And I really should be giving
Yeah.
that time to something else,
Right.
which is the dumbest thing. And yet, like, I still struggle with that.
Well, so exactly how you just explained it. So the whenever I was looking into the phrase guilty pleasures, it was, I guess, like started to be coined in the 1700s.
Hmm.
And it was
Little history.
kind of used to shame people. Like it was a way, it was like you are living outside of what we would consider the norms or what is okay. And so it was almost like community pressure to get people to not want to do things. And I think it was first, like the first time it like shows up in writing, in like secular writing, if you will, was in the New York Times. And if I can remember correctly, I think it was like in the 1800s, sometime in the 1800s, but it was attached to a brothel. And so it was in it. So again, like that's shameful. People shouldn't be going there, spending their time, their money, their resources, like all of
It's
that stuff in those spaces.
something you find enjoyment in that you shouldn't.
Correct, correct. So it began as a way to kind of like shame people into their behaviors, their activities, and they were things that were hidden. We wouldn't talk about them. And then they started to see like this shift into the 1900s and even into the late, like I want to say it was like in the 1980s, they started to see more of a shift around uh, it not really so much being used in a negative way, but in a way of like openness and conversation. And then when social media started, it just became like a trend. And now it's not so much, people don't see it in the same way. It's not as shameful. It's more trying to identify with people who are maybe like, binge watching the same show that you
I
are,
don't know. Still have a little bit of shame associated with guilty pleasures. And it's interesting because the word that comes to mind is indulge. And when I think about the word indulge, like that doesn't feel like a decadent positive feeling. It feels um like a shameful word. Like the word feels like it has shameful connotations to me. It's just really interesting, thing to think about.
So, as I was looking into this idea around guilty pleasures, I also wanted to look a little bit more into the psychology of it. And interestingly enough, one of the articles that was served up was this I don't know if you'd call it an article or a perspective, I don't know, on that the Calm app had put out into the world, and it's actually on their website. And there's an excerpt from it that I really liked because it says a guilty pleasure is something that you indulge in, even though part of you believes you might be judged for it, that it's bad for you, that it's pointless, it's without purpose. That the pleasures can be anything from enjoying a particular TV show or movie to indulging in certain foods or spending time on a hobby that seems unproductive. So again, kind of taking to your point, like that idea of like indulgence and, should I be doing that? Is that the best use of my time? And then we start, like where it used to be social pressures, it's now like our internal pressure to like
Yeah.
not want to let people down and not let people know that we've binge watched a show all weekend.
Yeah. I mean, even last week when you were talking about like your gratitude moment of this game that you've
Yeah.
enjoyed and like almost like feeling guilty about
Yeah.
like that you're investing time into this game and yet telling yourself, but wait, I shouldn't feel guilty about that.
Right.
And I have this tendency to believe that if I am not productive every moment of the day, and by the way, I am not productive every moment of the day. But because who can be? But
Right.
if I'm not productive every moment of the day, then that means I'm lazy.
Right.
And I don't know if anyone else struggles with that, but like it's not logical when you say it out loud. That doesn't make any sense. And yet I really have this, like, I feel like playing my video game is a guilty pleasure. And really it's just a way to like unwind and like sit in let my mind passively think about things while I'm actively thinking about something else, or really just to like find joy, or
Right.
it's but um you start to think, oh, that's a time waster and I should be productive all of the time, and I should
Right.
be, if I'm not being productive for work, then I should be productive around the house, or I should be productive by going for a walk, or I should be productive by investing in relationships, or
But
and
then, like, whose measuring stick are we using to say, like, how much productivity is the right amount of
I mean, that's what I
productivity?
think is
And
so wild is there's no one who is paying enough attention to me, or I mean, if somebody cares enough about me to be judging what I am doing all the time, like, I'm grateful for you for caring so much about me. But like, no, nobody does. And
right.
so it's like it is, I think my opinion, my take, it is our inner self projecting our inner feelings about things onto the proverbial everyone else. Like, in order to fix that, you have to go inside and
Yeah.
like really have that conversation with yourself about, why do I think this, and how can I reframe that thinking, and is this healthy, is there some truth to this, am I feeling guilty about putting off things that I need to do, and can I find a different level of balance. For that, sometimes I'll tell myself, okay, I know that when I start playing my game, sometimes I really just want to get stuck and get lost in my game. And so maybe there are things I should do before I play my game, or maybe I should set a timer, or,
Yeah.
allow myself a certain amount of time. Or sometimes it's okay just to like take the day, as long as that's not something you do every day, finding the balance. So you brought up in the outline this concept of like guilt
Hmm.
versus embarrassment. And when I was reading that, what came to mind is, of course, Brene Brown, who I'm a fan of, all of her work on shame. We've been talking about shame.
Yeah.
And when I think about embarrassment, my own take or opinion is that embarrassment is like shame's appetizer. It's like the precursor to shame. Embarrassment is that feeling that you feel, and you can either decide to dwell in that feeling and let it grow into shame,
Hmm.
or you can decide to, redirect your thinking, and then move on. But I was listening to something that Brene Brown said where she was defining the difference between guilt versus shame. And she said, guilt is something that you feel about actions that you either
Okay.
took or did not take. And shame is something that you feel about who you believe you are. So the difference is that you can feel guilty about something that you did, but that isn't a feeling that is assigned to your person. Shame is something that you believe about yourself. I thought that was really interesting because sometimes we do let guilt or the embarrassment that comes from guilt grow into shame and start informing ourselves. I feel ashamed that I am wasting my time. And I believe that that says something about me, about who I am. It says I'm lazy. It says I'm, all these things. I don't want to be lazy. Why don't I want to be lazy? Why is it okay for me to not be lazy sometimes? Why is that a bad thing? Where does that come from? So it's just really, really interesting. One of the things Brene Brown also said, and I'm interested in your take on this, is when talking about shame, she said for women, they feel shame about many things based on her research. But based on her research, and she's done a lot of research on shame, so this is interesting. Men feel shame about one thing, and it all comes back to being weak. What do you think about that?
This is going to be a cop out of an answer, and sorry, but like I would need to better understand like where she's like doing this from. Like I understand
Yeah.
like it's this idea of maybe being weak as not being able to provide, or being weak as not being emotionally available, or all of these different things. But I I think people can feel shame about a bunch of different things
Mm,
and on many different levels. And I think a lot of times it's shame that keeps us from having conversations that then like grow into these bigger things that we feel get out of control and we can't manage anymore.
yeah.
And so I don't know if I like, just on how you asked me that question, I would say I don't necessarily
I mean,
subscribe, but
as a male, I'm just really interested in your perspective.
yeah.
But I thought that was interesting. I thought, I'll just sit with that and think about it some more. And like I need to go find her research on that and see. And that may be old thinking as she continues to study shame. I don't know. So I'll have to
But
do
I think it also
some work on that.
is a good, I mean, it's probably when you look at the things that the pressures, right, over the years. And like
Yeah.
we've talked about this before, the stereotypes and the ways that we were brought up, like that stuff doesn't just weed itself out in one generation. Like the changing of like
Yeah.
women going and having a career, like yes, but there is still this subconscious thing that we also believe they need to be homemakers, they need to be great moms, they have to be great wives, they have to succeed in their careers. Like the laundry list of
They have to
things is
be
still there.
soft and hard, but not too soft. And yeah,
Right. So I do understand like from that perspective, like how women like can evaluate all of those different things and feel, well, geez, I'm just not like doing great in any of those. And
whereas the traditional societal male role is to be the rock.
right.
That's
So
interesting. That's
I can
interesting.
see that. I can see that perspective, but I would also say like being a gay man, like there were many different things that like I look back on my life and
Yeah.
felt a lot of shame with. So, and I don't think it came I don't
From a place of feeling weak.
right.
That's
So,
interesting. But I do like her definition, like her articulation of guilt versus shame. I feel guilty
yes.
about something I did, and I feel shameful about who I am.
Well,
And
and sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is like this whenever I was reading through some of these articles and ideas around guilty pleasures, where it went from like guilt being that like judgment passed on you into this space, like it has evolved into this space of embarrassment. Like, oh, I don't want my coworkers to know that like I watch The Bachelor. Like, what will they think of me?
Mm.
Or, you know, like whatever the things are, cultural things, and that can like differ based on like where you work or where you go to school or where you live, like what people are watching. They used a lot of examples around like the music you listen to, the books that you read. It gets more around that feeling of I
Who you
don't want
believe
it.
you're supposed to be. And
Right.
what's so interesting is I think when I think about that, I definitely see how those dynamics play out in kind of the workplace, interpersonal relationship dynamics.
Hmm.
But like it takes me back to thinking about like the middle school era, at least for girls. I don't know if this is true for boys too, but it probably is. In middle school, like it's just such a challenging time. And you start to care even more, I feel like, about what other people think of you. And you watch like who are those popular kids and what
Yeah.
makes a popular kid. And it's not always like one set of things that you could externally kind of look at and identify, but more like the inner confidence. Like the person that has this inner confidence that exudes the I don't really care what everybody else thinks. Like people are attracted to that and they want to follow that. And I feel like I've seen the same thing play out so that, if somebody watches The Bachelor as the example that you give, I mean, you really have no judgment about whether people do or don't. What is that show even still on? I don't know.
So Jen doesn't watch The Bachelor.
It was never my thing, just because I was like, well, that's kind of dumb, but like, I don't really care if other people do. But I remember this in the place that we used to work together. This was like the thing,
Yeah, hot topic.
and there were people that watched it that were like, I'm sorry, I can't because I gotta watch The Bachelor tonight,
Right. But
and
I think
like
even like
they
what
didn't
you
care.
just right, but I think even how you just said that, like I never watched it, was never my thing. I think I found it dumb. Like I think it's that like that idea of oh well I know like say one day a future coworker of yours like
Mm,
sees this and hears you say like that's dumb. Like you're not passing judgment on them. Like watch what
no.
you want to watch, whatever. But it's that idea of like oh to them I'm going to be wasting my time because they see it as dumb. And
Mm,
I know that that's not like what the purpose of what you're saying, but
yeah.
that's how like that shift has occurred is like
This fear
now
of what
guilty
other people think
pleasure.
of me. It's
Exactly.
this fear of what other people think of you, and a lot of times I think we project that on
Hmm.
other people, and really at the end of the day, like, who cares what other
Right.
people think about you? And they'll take the cues from you. So if you constantly are unsure, and this is something I have struggled with, finding my own inner confidence, I am not a master of that by any stretch of the imagination, but something I do my mantras and, like, really invest in because,
Yeah.
uh, like, at the end of the day, I do think when you have this sense of inner security and inner confidence, other people read that and are attracted to it, and so they don't have as much like judgment,
Yeah.
unless they're just really jealous about it. But like also when you have this sense of inner confidence, it doesn't really matter how everybody else responds to it.
Right.
Like, I'm okay with the fact that you think something is dumb and I don't. Like, it doesn't bother me because I'm deciding for me what's right for me. Um, so that's, or even if I decide it wasn't right for me and I did it anyway, like, who cares? I'm like, I don't care what you think, which is not at all how I have come up or the person that, I would have described myself
Right.
as, but it is something that I aspire to lean more into. I think as I get older, I hit a certain milestone in
Yeah.
life and I just stopped caring as much. Not that I don't care, because I do too much still, but it is easier for me to understand how you could maybe not care about certain things.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to bring that very thing up because I do remember, like, as I was growing up, like, my parents, like, giving me that advice, like, "You don't be worried about what people think of you right now, because like, when you look back, you're not gonna be like, 'Oh, darn, I didn't have them, they weren't my friend.' You're gonna think, 'Darn, I really missed that opportunity to go do something because I was afraid I was gonna be made fun of for doing it,' or whatever." Fast forward a few years and I'm an adult and, have different friends who are in different places in life. Frank is, 15 years older than I am. And I see him walk around with this, like, I don't care. Like I want to enjoy life. I only have so much time here and I'm going to enjoy it. And like, I envy that. Not envy it, but I think as I'm around people more with that attitude, and also as I am getting older, I have found myself in that situation of like, I don't want to miss opportunities just because I feel awkward or weird. Like, whatever, it is what it is. No one ever probably feels 100% comfortable in their skin at all times. Like, it is what
Yeah.
it is. But I think as you get older and you have more of those data points or lived experiences, your understanding and your idea of all of this kind of shifts and you begin to seek your happiness.
I think it's a wisdom. It's a form of wisdom to understand that you are the only one that should be evaluating what you think and where your own values lie. And I think some people encounter that wisdom young, and I really envy that because that's something that I always wanted to be able to have. But I do think for me, it's two things. One, it's really exhausting trying to care about what everybody else thinks of you all the time.
Yeah.
And like, there's not a lot of payoff in it because like it changes from moment to
It's a moving
moment.
target.
And so if you are constantly just trying to be enough in everybody else's eyes and yet you don't even know what enough looks like, and frankly they're probably so wrapped up in themselves that they're not even paying attention to you, it just makes you weak and vulnerable. And those are feelings I don't like.
And I want to try to avoid them.
And so I think it's exhausting. So I think there just becomes a point at which you've done it for long enough that you just are too tired to keep
Yeah.
doing it anymore. And just like in the words of like the We Don't Care Club, I just don't have enough energy to care anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the middle of a hot flash. Okay. And then I think the other part is kind of what you were getting at in that there you hit a certain age or point or milestone in life, wherever that is for you, where you really can no longer ignore or live ignorantly about the fact that you've always been aware theoretically that your life has an end. The amount of time you have left continues to diminish. And even though
Right.
hopefully we none of us ever know when that is, and hopefully I've got a lot of it left. I'm aware that I need to do the things that I want to be doing because it is finite. Like it does
Right.
have an end. Whereas, when you're 15, 20, 25, it feels like, you still have forever in front of you. So, oh, I just want to go shake my
Right. Your
27
younger
year old
self.
self that thought, "Oh, life is older. I'm getting so
Right.
old." Like, shut up.
So that's also something that I find interesting. People who like make their age seem like it's such a like big thing, or I work with people who are younger than I am, and I just turned 25 and I'm like, all right, you're not that old. Like, you're not like you got lots of time, you may have lots of time left depending on your like how you operate. But anyways, I for me one of the aha moments that I had.
It depends on how much time you spend watching The Bachelor.
Right, exactly. We don't have exact correlation yet, but I'm sure studies are being done.
Not at all.
But I found like one of the things that I saw is someone actually did the math of like what the like general life expectancy is in years. And whenever you think about like how many years that is versus how old you are, you're like, oh wow, I still have a lot of years left. But then
Yeah.
they did it by months, by weeks, by hours, by minutes. And whenever I saw the weeks, I was like, well, that can't be right. So then and I am not a math person. So like for me to feel like motivated to go do math, like
You're like, I'm running out of time.
that is exactly how I felt. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have a lot of weeks left, people.
I think I did that math once and I didn't like the answer. And so I've just chosen to put it away from my mind and ignore it. And
Yeah.
I was like, even when you think about that song from Rent,
Yeah.
500,
25,000.
525,600 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the amount of minutes in a year. Cause it feels like it should be like a million minutes, doesn't
Right.
it?
It's 525,600 minutes. Yes.
Yeah.
It
That's
feels
what I
like it
said.
should be much, 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 much more.
Yeah.
And it's
Feels like
not.
it should be a million minutes.
Right.
There has to be a million minutes in a year. I think this relates back to the time travel. See our episode on that for
Yeah.
more information. It's about what was that? The addition of seconds,
Yeah.
like leap seconds. The leap seconds definitely have to be coming into play here.
Right. But let's be clear, like leap seconds that are like measured in the microsecond. So like
No. There
no,
have
no,
been
right.
26 leap seconds added since the 70s, so I get it. Like it's less than half a minute, but obviously, if you just do the math, that's how you get to from 525,600 minutes to a million minutes.
Yeah,
Is in the
obviously.
grand scheme of,
Right.
the universe over billions of years. It's got to multiply out. I'm not going to do the math. I don't want the answer.
No. And I think like I think that is my point in all of this and kind of what I was reading about like this idea of guilty pleasures. Psychology Today has an article where they talk about how a lot of psychologists believe that guilt is adaptive in the way that it motivates people to follow those social norms. And so essentially we feel bad when we break the rules, which then prevents us from breaking the rules as often. But also, there's this idea that like the guilt in doing something makes you feel better doing it because, ooh, I shouldn't be doing it.
Well, I don't know. I think that depends on who you are. I think that depends a little bit on personality, maybe some on upbringing, like in some of your past. I would say, like, when I think about religion just across the world, and I definitely ascribe to the difference between spirituality and religion. I think
Hmm.
there is a huge difference. And so when I talk about religion, what I am referring to is like the construct of it. I think that no matter the religion that you look at, a lot of religions have been, have like guilt and shame embedded in them as a way to control people. Because, to the point that you were making, like, absolutely. That society uses, I think society uses religion, cultures use religion to control people.
Yeah.
It is why we're supposed to have the separation of church and state, although one could argue whether we do or not. But it is also why when you look back through history and you look at other civilizations and cultures, why I think that you have them kind of married together, because what stronger way can you use guilt and shame to control somebody's behavior than by saying, either whether they follow your rules or not determines what's going to happen to them after they die, this mysterious thing, and then like whether or not they'll be considered a good person.
Right.
Because in general, and I know there are always exceptions, and there are always, we like the neuroscience behind, why is something that is both fascinating and terrifying to me. So we won't dig into that today, but I think the majority of people just go through life wanting to be good. And that's how, like, in a classroom, you are able to establish behavior and control. Like most
Yeah.
people want to follow the rules. They want, just to an extent, they want to understand why the rules make sense. Although I don't know that that's most people. I think that's a portion of people. But I think most people want to follow the rules and they want the gold star. They want to be good. And I think religion uses guilt and shame to play upon that, which, of course, I struggle with. But I think, you know, it is interesting that that is how cultures and dynasties and, over history have been able to, if you think about like how do a select few people take over a great many people, like that I think is how.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the pressure to join in, assimilate, like not create ripples, like wanting to be accepted into the vast majority. And right, like there's someone who's defining that. There's someone who's saying what right looks like and what are the things we are going to follow. And one of the examples that I really appreciated was like when there was an article that was talking about like books and how there are people who, you know, the great literature and that's what they talk about and what it brings and how it like forms the mind and all of these things. But then what people are really reading and really enjoying are like the romance novels and the things that are, but that's not what we talk about because we don't want to be judged for that. Like, and so, which I've told you recently, like I've gone on my journey of reading my first versions of romance novels and like I'm proud of that. Like I had never read one before and then I listened to a lot of them and once I figured out the formula I was like, okay, this is a little less exciting, but like
Yeah, it's
still great content.
it's like a Hallmark movie. It depends on who. Well, it depends on who you read. Like, yeah, generally they always end up happy in the end, but sometimes they don't, and then it's not satisfying. To be honest, like you're
holiday
reading it for the
shows
payoff.
holiday
Huh?
shows are also on a list of guilty pleasure and I immediately thought of you and your Hallmark um, uh, year-end extravaganzas that you
Yeah.
enjoy.
Let's just not call it year end. I mean, Hallmark makes holiday movies for every holiday out there. Also, Christmas in July. But I haven't been indulging in that as much recently. But I think part of the reason that there is such a following and that it appeals is like it's a really safe place to retreat into, right?
Right.
Like there's no stress about the outcome. Am I going to invest? You know how I am about like picking a book to read or a
You do
movie
a
to
lot of
watch.
research. It's
I'm
like you
like,
trying to find a hotel.
yeah, I'm just really apprehensive about it. And I'm apprehensive about it in part because, like, I don't know what journey somebody else is going to take me down, but
Yeah.
after I invest all of this time in it, which we've already established is finite, and I've built this relationship with these characters because I don't know if anybody else does that, but like I certainly do. Is the payoff going to be worth it?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to be taken down? I must have been jaded by some books or something. Am I going to be taken down some dark place? And because I don't need a book for that. I don't need
Yeah.
a movie for that. Like life is just enough for that sometimes. And I think the guilty pleasure, if you will, about the Hallmark movie is some of them are actually like good. Some of them are, cringy.
Well, maybe
um,
this year what we'll do is we'll watch them and do a
yeah.
scorecard and we can compare notes.
Well, I think bingo is, Hallmark movie bingo is the fun way to go.
Okay.
But some of them are cringy, but what's great is like at the end everybody's going to end up happy and it's this safe little world and
Yeah.
then you kind of watch too many of them and you start to go, I'm like dissatisfied with life because life is never going to look like that.
My life is in a Hallmark movie.
Why can't I just move to some small town where everybody knows everybody, but they also like everybody and, like they have the skills magically to organize some parade and they quit their job and they own a shop and they never have to spend any time working in it. And, you know,
That is the dream, isn't it?
yeah.
Someone's,
um,
I'm sure.
there have been some really good ones though. I have a few favorite actors, a few favorite writers, and a deep appreciation for the entertainment that it provides because I do indulge, and it's a nice escape, a getaway. It is a guilty pleasure, uh, and maybe it's guilty because like you said, it like people can be like, "Oh, you watch Hallmark movies?" But I'm proud. It's fine. I like
Well, and
it.
I think that's like where I want like to kind of wrap this conversation up in is like the guilty pleasures also do something that is really healthy and necessary for us. And it allows us that safe space. It allows us that that opportunity to refresh in a way that feels good to us. So whether that's, watching The Bachelor, whether it's reading a book that, isn't the great American literature, or indulging in Hallmark
I mean,
movies,
somebody
like,
still invested themselves in writing that book and making
correct.
that movie.
And there are people who do, like, that is a happy place for them and that
Yeah,
like fills their cup, but
yeah.
that doesn't take away from the importance of that for you to say, well, that's not enjoyable to me, that's not where I want to spend a lot of my time, a lot of my energy there. I rather it be in something that I more enjoy. But it's about finding that balance, because if you just live in this space of like constant indulgence and like, is that
Then
really
it becomes
healthy?
not a guilty pleasure. Yeah. I was thinking the exact same thing. Like our disclaimer here is like, yes, participate in your guilty pleasures, lean into them, start asking yourself, why do I feel guilty about this? Does it relate back to some shame, something I believe about myself? Why do I believe that? Is that really logical? Maybe even say it out loud, even if just to the mirror, because sometimes you hear it and then you go, okay, well, maybe my thinking's a little
Yeah,
incorrect. But like these guilty pleasures should not be things that are harmful to you. They shouldn't be
right.
harmful to your physical, mental, spiritual health. They shouldn't be harmful to other people. And they also you do have to find balance. Like guilty pleasures are not an excuse to not do the things that
Right.
you have to be responsible for. It's just about balance.
Right. And so I think, as I like, you were talking about like voicing up and speaking up whenever, like, if you're with friends and they're like, coming down on a show or a book or something that you really enjoyed, like, speak up and say it. Like, I challenge you to do that, because
Here's
people
my
won't
struggle with
think
that.
things from a different perspective if you don't challenge them to.
Here's my struggle with that. I always go to I feel like anyways, anytime you say always, but I feel like I often like I'll speak up, but for some reason it comes out with a level of intensity that I don't necessarily mean. And so all of a sudden, like everything gets, well, I really like that book. And then everything just gets weird and awkward, and I'm overly intense. And so that's something I don't know if you find that about me. I find
I
that
mean,
about me.
sometimes you do, but then I think like that, like, who's gonna just let that like end the conversation? Like, I think that, like, if we are talking about something and you want to come in and speak passionately about a counterpoint of it, like, isn't that the point of a discussion? Like, yeah, maybe it
I mean,
escalated
but
or
it
feels like
even
it
was too
escalated, but
intense for me. Like I just my intensity meter is like not calibrated.
well, maybe it's just you wanting to make sure that you're heard. Like, you're
I don't
getting in
know.
there with that intensity so you are sure that you are heard.
I think my dials just turned up higher.
Well,
It's not on purpose. The way it comes out doesn't always match the way it is on the inside.
right.
But yeah, it's like this over intensity of how I feel about it. And so then it's just awkward and everybody's like, "Okay." Um so if you know me and I do that, just know I didn't mean to. Probably if I did, you'll know, but I probably
Just
didn't.
say, Jen, that was a bit intense.
Like let's just laugh about it.
Don't call me out on it. Let's just laugh.
Break the ice.
um, but yeah, so I just thought this was like a really interesting topic. I really, especially getting more into, reading or reading, as you like to judge me on.
Listening to books. Listening to books.
We did actually go to a real bookstore. It was an independent bookstore we happened across in the city
Now that's a
yesterday,
guilty pleasure.
and I did go in and buy 3 books.
Did you just like smell them?
No, I didn't smell them.
Is that weird?
Do you go into books and like shove your nose into the pages?
Like, when you walk into a bookstore, like the smell that it has of like the paper and the binding and like the books, like not a library or a used bookstore where it's all kind of musty and mingled with like people's cigarette smell and whatever, but like new books, the smell of new books is like the smell of new pencils.
I think we're going to have to do a whole episode on this.
Okay, well, it's real. It's a thing.
The palette, the nose palette of Jen.
I am not alone in this.
No, I know a lot of people really like the smell of new books. I actually just found out one of my colleagues does not buy new books. She will only buy used books. They have to be like in
Why?
good condition.
Why is
But
that?
I don't know, she feels like
She doesn't like the
it's
smell?
one of
She wants to save them from the landfill?
possibly like wanting to save the environment and reuse.
The
I don't know.
mystery of where the book has been before?
Well, I would say yes to that, but it's not like she said like she's looking for them like with someone's name in them or anything like that. She just like she goes to books like used bookstores and
I want to be like,
purchase books from there.
whose hand has this book been in? What life has this book led? But then as soon as I start asking those questions, a lot of other intrusive questions come in, like,
And then all of
where
a
have
sudden you're
those
putting the
hands
book down.
been? Did they leave the book in the bathroom and flush the toilet with the lid open? Because that's disgusting.
All right, this conversation around guilty pleasures has moved in a totally different direction. But it's on brand for us. Totally on brand.
On brand. Well, we would love to know what your guilty pleasures are. So share with us. You can comment wherever you're listening to this podcast at. Comment, drop a comment. We love those. We will respond back to you. So share with us what your guilty pleasures are. I would love to be overwhelmed with comments so that we just can't even respond to them all. One day, Chris.
One day.
525,600 minutes. You can reach us via email at chrisjeninthemorning@gmail.com, chrisjeninthemorning@gmail.com, or voicemail or text, because who actually talks to a voicemail anymore, except for those robot programs that robocall you. So text us at 940-278-8129. And don't forget to follow us on social media. So we're everywhere that you can. Chris is on Reddit now. We're in all the places. At Chris and Jen ITM. ITM stands for in the morning. At Chris and Jen ITM, you can find us anywhere you are, pretty much. So we would love to hear from you and share with us what your guilty pleasures are and how you feel about them.
Yeah. So find us, follow us, subscribe, all of the things. And we look forward to hearing what guilty pleasures folks are into out there.
Yeah. And until next time, be kind to one another and make it a great week.
Bye, everyone.